thank you, HCL, for inviting me to speak today. As most of us work for companies, they all start out with a terrific idea. Right? And at Reader's Digest, back in 1922, DeWitt Wallace and his wife Lila realized that they couldn't read all the novels they'd like to read. So they condensed them and put them in a publication, and then realized that they could solve the world's problems in a 15-minute wait at a doctor's office. Right? And it's a really good metaphor for atomizing content and going to the web and so on. And if you take a look at the company now, I'll just give you a quick introduction, because Reader's Digest is more than that pamphlet you see in the doctor's office. Over 80 websites. We have the highest volume downloads on the Kindle and soon the Nook. And we sell all kinds of products, from music, publishing products. We have broadcast media and so on. And we've become a global leader in many key brand areas in the B2C place. And you know, the company, if you read the internet, has gone through some tough times with the drop in the marketplace. And a key part of what we are doing is kind of rebuilding the brand, rebuilding Reader's Digest to also retain its current glory, but also future glory. And if you take a look at the different lines of business, just to give you an intro, our strategy is to focus on our core master brands. And we have been selling some that aren't part of that brand strategy in order to invest more into those brands. And the key thing for us is to invest in the brands that can operate in multi-channels, which means digital, broadcast, mobile, applications, and so on, intelligent agents on the web, etc. And in publishing, traditional publishing, and then also come at it from a point of multiple sources of revenue. So it comes from subscriptions, advertising, and publication sales, and product sales, etc. So when you take a look at all of that, it really lines up with where digital trends are happening in B2C media. And they deal with media convergence. You hear multimedia, you hear all these different acronyms around media. It's really about bringing that experience together across the different platforms. And that includes television, social media, satellite radio. And what we have to do is actually provide that multi-channel access across for our products. Mobile computing, digital publishing, we're all involved in that quite heavily. There's globalization, and then there's a big part of this is what we call maturing markets. I don't think they're emerging markets anymore, are they? In fact, they're challenging the US. So it's a matter of maturing markets, but also deals with how to deal with information and the governance around information. And in China, you know, we have to be cognizant of the fact that we could create an article that becomes a rallying cry at a place like Tiananmen Square. Right? So you have to be really, really understanding of what your message is to different cultures and markets. And then what cloud does is it brings the price of entry, reduces the price of entry into the 3 above. And it's very, very powerful. And so our strategy, from a technical standpoint, is a convergence strategy. It's bringing together all our key assets. You know, we hear about big data. Absolutely not. We would not build the big monolithic databases anymore. Distributed data is in. It's it. And the reason is because we need to plug and play capabilities, whether it's marketing information off our broadcast media, whether publishing information. We have data on over 700 million households worldwide, and we have 140 million customers. Extremely powerful capability. But we're not going to be able to lock that up into a big, huge monolithic database. And then we need to plug and play our back office, what we call back office business systems. And then, of course, the jazz part of it, which we heard from Vivek today, which is our product development. But the key thing is this integration hub and building frameworks so we can plug and play and move with the marketplace as quickly as we need to. And then if you create that internal cloud, and I've been lucky enough to work with organizations who have done that, to move to an external cloud to combine the traditional products and also combine our media channels becomes a lot more seamless. So that's the elevator speech on where we are going technically as a company. But for us, it's massive re-engineering. And if we talk about the organization for a minute, the IT organization spread across 20 countries. I don't have them all up there. And then we have an excellent deal with HCL, where 85% of our resources come from HCL. And the key part of this is to deal with all the communication that has to take place so we can actually spur innovation. We have a number of different barriers. And one of them is technically. Definitely we have siloed products. We're a company like maybe some of yours that grew from acquisition or strength of personality in a certain region that was able to succeed doing things their own way. And what we need to do is bring that together in not only a technical framework, but an organizational framework where 1,000 flowers can bloom. Now, how many of you have actually worked through a massive transformation effort for Fortune 500 company? All right, how long does it take to do that? How many think it's 2 years? Raise your hand. How many think it's 3 years? 5 years? All right, the answer is 2.5 CIOs. All right, that's the answer. And so you have to go in with that mindset, right? That you want to put the frameworks in place to not only spur innovation, but to bring this tremendous re-engineering to a really good conclusion. Now, one of the other barriers to spurring innovation is this little study here. I had done a study back in 1999. Some very smart people from a couple of outsourcing firms. And the cost arbitrage was expected to last till 2025. And then at my stint at S&P last year, we took a look at various factors that are taking place in the marketplace. One is the relative slow growth of costs, IT staffing costs in the US, and the tremendous inflation that's occurring in India. But this is actually quite the same story everywhere if you ask a number of global suppliers. And you find out that the cost arbitrage begins to erode tremendously, it has already, and starts breaking even around 2013. That's a lot sooner than anyone had thought. Now, this whole conference that talks about having a great idea not only to start but reinvigorate companies and also to focus on innovation is a great business move, because the days of competing from pure cost arbitrage are over. It's all going to be about innovation and creating an environment for innovation and creating it in such a way that you can bring all the resources to bear to actually make that happen. So here at Reader's Digest, we're going to look at innovation as a team sport. And we're going to do a few critical things, and I'd like to report on how we've accomplished our mission over by the next meeting. Keech will keep that in mind, I'm sure, and Sanjeev and others. One is, we've heard this up here from my colleagues. It's all about joint planning and lining up goals. But we also are going to create and realign our organization to make it a virtual global organization in which it's going to be very difficult to tell the difference between an HCL staff member or a Reader's Digest staff member. In fact, that distinction we are going to blur a great deal. We're really going to focus it on common goals, and that includes organization that has HCL staff in leadership roles dedicated with our group. We'll also have common objectives and integrated planning, which is already started. And by the way, they've given me feedback on the organization redesign, and I have worked with them also to come up with designs that will line up with ours, and it'll be a dedicated service to RDA. Also, innovation, it's much more difficult, particularly with all the financial pressures in the media space, for us to take on the big $40, $50 million project. So we are going to be looking at surgical opportunities to lower the demographic lift for our client base and also to build volume through digital products. And we are going to be working a great deal on shared rewards and incentives. It's a real danger when any supplier starts moving toward their goals versus the overall goals that you need to attain to grow your business. And then compatible career paths. There's a lot of discussion. Well, if I'm with HCL, I have these opportunities. I'm at RDA, I have these other opportunities. So we're going to create a common career path for the organization. A key thing around this is agile software engineering, virtual scrum rooms, and common tools. That way we can connect our organization. HCL has some wonderful communication vehicles and frameworks as well. You've seen one of them up here, which is the value generation tool, Mimi, which is a social networking tool. We'll be taking care of that as well. And then we apply this to our growing BPO opportunity. But the one thing to keep in mind, this is really a change from Gartner. Gartner has a linear model, talks about a technology-centric organization, and then you evolve to become this service-centric organization, and then you become this innovator. But really the way we take a look at this is that in order to bring a company to the frontier, let 1,000 flowers bloom, and play jazz, you definitely need some common infrastructure and common frameworks. And the hub framework is the one we'll be using to make that happen. But the one thing when you look at this, the chances are that I've seen from company to company is that if you have a customer-supplier arrangement with your sourcer, there's a good chance you have a customer-supplier arrangement between business and IT. It's the great divide everyone has been talking about for so long. So the idea here is not for us to be the customer and HCL to be the supplier. It's not for me to be the supplier to our business group, but for us to work together as business partners. And that's what our roles are. It's actually create those and create that kind of environment where we can collectively succeed. Thank you.